Peace, family. This is your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to Night School. Every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, we have a deep conversation about the hottest issues, the most urgent news, the most pressing matters, the most intense debates going on in the world today. But we don't just give you a news drive-by. We give you a deep analysis. It's not a TV show. It's not a podcast. It is a global classroom. And we're here today to cover a bunch of stuff that I got to talk about. But and let's start from the top. And when I say the top, I mean the White House, because every single day Joe Biden seems to do something to remind us that he is not a left-wing president, that he is not a progressive politician, that he's not even a liberal some days. He's kind of just the same thing we had before in a different package. Today, President Biden does yet another thing that makes him look an awful lot like Donald Trump in the light. President Joe Biden signs an executive order to crack down on asylum seekers at the U.S. southern border. This new order is going to shut off requests when the average number of daily encounters exceeds 2,500 people. Now, here's the thing. The average number has already exceeded 2,500. So this isn't some measure to stop us from future flooding. This is a measure designed to crack down on people crossing the border right now as we speak. And when that happens, a shutdown goes into effect. So basically, effective immediately, we're going to have a shutdown of anybody crossing the border. And if you cross the border, you will get expelled by border officials. Migrants who are expelled under the order will receive a minimum of 5-year ban on re-entry. So you get kicked out, you can't come back, and you might get criminally prosecuted. Biden is making this decision under the Immigration and Nationality Act. Now, there's all kinds of reasons that Biden is doing this. Is he concerned about people coming across the border too much? Maybe. But every election year, every 2 years, every 4 years, Republicans and Democrats play politics with immigration. Nobody wants to put forward a really effective bill. Nobody wants to advance legislation that actually fundamentally changes or fixes our problems. They all want to posture, stunt, and then wait for the elections to come, and then they disappear and act like they never talked about it again. Now, according to the Biden people, this is a response to inactivity by Congress on immigration. And to some extent, that's true, right? They had bipartisan frameworks in place for a reasonable immigration bill. Republicans in the Senate blocked it, as they always do. And so there is a kind of difficulty for Democrats, and particularly for the Biden administration, to navigate this effectively. I don't take any... I don't ignore that point, I'll just say. But at the same time, what we're seeing from the Trump administration from 2016 to 2020 isn't that different than what we're seeing right now in the Biden administration from 2020 until this very moment. We're seeing intense crackdowns on migrants. We're seeing intense crackdowns on quote unquote illegal immigration. We're seeing the criminalization of Mexican people and people from Central America. We are seeing an attempt, I would argue, to pander to the right. Because when you say we're going to deport nationals of Mexico or Cuba or Haiti or Nicaragua or Venezuela, when you say no more, stop coming in the country, when you have people like Kamala Harris, our vice president, standing in for the Biden administration saying, don't come. When you got all of that happening, you allow people who really don't want to vote for Trump, but just think liberals are too loose on these issues, to say, that's right, pump their fists and vote for Biden. Biden is doing what a lot of NBA point guards do. They fake left and go right. That's what he's doing right now. And no matter how much he fakes left, he's still going right. And so this isn't an easy policy to get through. In fact, it's going to face challenges. The ACLU is going absolutely to challenge the ban. And guess what? They challenged Trump's ban. And guess what? They were successful. So when Biden goes head to head with the ACLU on an immigration bill, when he's saying don't come and the ACLU is saying they need to come, he looks like a hero to the centrists. He looks like an acceptable candidate to the right, even if they pretend otherwise, because now he's staring down the ACLU. So if Biden is staring down the ACLU on immigration, and he's fighting the Arabs and the brown people and the Muslims and everybody else on Israel-Palestine, and he's standing with the police on these Blue Lives Matter missions, where he's saying we want to fund more police. No, we don't want to defund, we want to double fund. When he's standing on these issues, who the hell did y'all elect? What the hell do y'all think Joe Biden is? He's making it very clear that he is not a progressive candidate. Now, let me add this addendum. I'm not saying vote for Trump. I'm not saying ignore the threat of Trump. I'm not saying that we don't have to think very seriously about what the consequences are of 4 more years of Trump, and that we don't have to do everything we can to stop Trump from entering office. That's fine. But let's not pretend that Biden is something that he isn't. And let's not stop applying pressure to Biden so we can get the kind of outcomes we want. Because what we're seeing right now from Biden on immigration and on asylum and on banning people and expelling people, that's a very cynical political move, but it's exactly what we should expect from Joe Biden. All right, next up, Louisiana. Woo. For years now, every time there's an awful news story, I feel like it's coming out of Texas or Florida, 90% of the time. Well, lately, Louisiana is catching up. Louisiana legislators passed a bill that would allow judges to order surgical castration of sex offenders who abuse children. Now, under the bill, those convicted of rape, incest, and molestation of children under 13 could receive this punishment. Now, if the bill gets signed, and it's a Republican governor, Jeff Landry, he's going to sign it. It could be applied to anyone who has been convicted of a crime committed on or after August of this year. So anytime after this, 2 months from now, the person can be castrated, surgically castrated, not chemically castrated, surgically castrated. Offenders who refuse to undergo the procedure after being ordered could be hit with a failure to comply charge and face up to an additional 5 years in prison. The Republican-controlled state legislature has been making headlines these past several months with bills prohibiting people from coming within 25 feet of police officers. They've also, as I mentioned last week, made 10 Commandments posters mandatory in public classrooms, or at least the bill is suggesting that it be mandatory, and classifying abortion pills as a Schedule 4 controlled substance. They're trying to make abortion pills a controlled substance, like you walking around with dope in your bag. I know some of y'all are saying right now, well, this is complicated. I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, somebody's sexually assaulting, raping, committing incest, or molesting a 13-year-old or younger. I don't give a damn what happens to them. And I'll be honest with you. I ain't got no sympathy for child molesters. I ain't got no sympathy for rapists. I ain't got no sympathy for people who commit incest. So nothing that I'm about to say is out of deference or concern for them. I wouldn't care if the worst things happen to these people. That's not the question to me. The question is, does this government, does the state, and particularly this racist, imperialist, imperial, patriarchal, homophobic, class-defending state have the capacity to yield justice? And the answer is no. our criminal legal system, I don't call it a justice system, our criminal legal system gets it wrong all the time. We criminalize the most vulnerable people. We lock up the wrong people. We over-incarcerate people, and we don't even pretend at this point in time to be rehabilitative, to be restorative, to try and make people better. All we do is cage people and punish them. But now they're saying caging them and punishing them ain't enough. Now we got to cut their genitalia off? You telling me that's not cruel and unusual punishment? Whatever happened to restorative justice? But even before we get to restorative justice, let's look at the fact that we over-incarcerate people because we get it wrong. We often wrongly incarcerate, wrongly arrest, wrongly accuse, wrongly charge people, especially Black folk, especially Black men, especially poor people, especially poor Black men. So now not only are you going to be incarcerated for something you maybe didn't do, but you're going to have your genitalia surgically removed. This is unthinkable in a modern, civilized, developed society. It's unthinkable. Now, some people say, well, there's some wiggle room here. You can just get hit with the failure to comply charge and do another 5 years in prison. Okay, so now people have to choose between sitting in a cage for an additional 5 years, even if they didn't do it, or being castrated. Can you imagine being faced with those options? Look, you can lose your ability to have children, your ability to have sex, your ability to be one of the most fundamental, or to engage in one of the most fundamental acts of human beingness. Or you can sit locked up for 5 more years. You can sit locked up for another 1900 days. You're putting people in an impossible situation. If you told somebody, look, you can stay in prison for 5 more years or get your pinky cut off, people say, take the pinky. Why? Because people don't want to be caged. It's not natural or normal to cage people. And so just because people will take the option of losing a limb, or in this case, losing genitalia or whatever, doesn't mean that it's fair, because people have options. You put people in an impossible situation with impossible choices. Yeah, they will choose one, and they'll choose the least unbearable one in the moment, but that doesn't make the choice fair. And again, who's going to get charged with this? Who's going to get the actual charge? Who's going to get the similar charge that has a different name so that you don't have to get castrated? Where are we looking? Where are we over-policing? Where are we doing it wrong? But I don't want to just presume that everybody accused of rape, incest, and molestation is not guilty, because lots of people, most people who say they were molested, they're not lying. Most people who say they were victims of incest, they're not lying. Most people who say they were raped are not lying. So I don't want to suggest this narrative that the victims of sexual violence are liars. No, I'm just saying we get it wrong enough that we shouldn't be cutting people's genitalia off. But even when we get it right, is that a civilized response? Is that a humane response? Is that a restorative response? The argument for castration historically has been that these people are such menaces. These people present such a danger to society that they aren't allowed to have these body parts anymore. They're not allowed to be able to use these body parts anymore, like the chemical castration, because they're a threat to society. I get that logic. But this law isn't saying if you commit more than one crime, or if you're rehabilitatable, if the crime is wanton and reckless, if there's some scale. They're saying any accusation, charge, and conviction will lead to this. Now, again, all of it is inexcusable. All of it is disgusting. All of it is unacceptable. All of it is something that people should be held accountable for. I agree 1,000%. But what does accountability look like? And what's next? In Louisiana or Texas or Florida, one of these other crazy ass states, Mississippi, Alabama, what are they going to say next? Anybody caught stealing gets their hand cut off? I mean, it's the slippery slope. You say, well, you shouldn't steal. True. But where do we draw the line? You can have absolutely no sympathy for the rapist, the molester, the predator, because I ain't got no sympathy for them, but you can still say the state does not have the right, the legitimacy, or the accuracy that is necessary to have a punishment like this. Peace, family. Welcome back to Night School. And speaking of Night School, make sure you follow the Night School Instagram page. If you on IG, make sure you follow Night School MLH. You'll get clips from the show. You'll get the latest updates. And it also gives you a space to pass the word about the show. When you see them clips, you see them reels, you see them updates, put them on your story, spread them to your friends, because we want to expand the Night School classroom as widely as possible. And also, if you have a product or a service or anything else that you want to promote, we are now open for limited time, some ad space. So please send us a note. We'll give you the update and we'll tell you what's the next appropriate step. Let's talk, y'all. I want to talk about pharmacies and what's going on here in the United States. Spitter. Sorry, y'all. I had a little computer glitch. I'm sitting there trying to read, and you know my eyes don't work that good, so I had to take a second. It was like I see lines, but I don't know what those lines mean. It didn't even look like English. All right, y'all. Let's talk about pharmacies across the country. Major pharmacies are shutting down drastically due to falling prescription reimbursements, persistent theft. I've seen you. And changing shopping habits. Now, research is showing that Black and Latino communities are suffering from this more than anyone. According to an Associated Press analysis of licensing data from 44 states, data from the National Council for Prescription Drug Programs and the American Community Survey, all of this information basically tells us that Black and Hispanic communities have fewer pharmacies per capita than predominantly white neighborhoods. I'll give you an example. A Mac pharmacy in a majority Black zip code in Cleveland, Ohio, is the only pharmacy that serves 20,000 people. So a Mac pharmacy in the suburbs might be serving 500 people, maybe 1,000 people. But in the hood in Cleveland, 20,000 people. Now, we know what this kind of desert creates, right? It creates gaps. People got to drive farther to get prescriptions. They got to drive farther to get over-the-counter medicine. You usually need some penicillin or whatever. They drive farther to get vaccinations. You want to get that COVID shot, you got to drive to the next town over. You can't get it done in the Heights if you in Cleveland. This is not a small thing. We often talk about food insecurity and people having to go, 3, 4, 5, 10 miles to get fresh fruits and vegetables because the neighborhood doesn't have that stuff. But not having access to the pharmacy is also a key issue. And sometimes the only access you might have is a big box retailer. You got to go to Target or Walmart, which creates its own economic problems and its own financial challenges. But not being able to go to a drugstore where you can get your questions answered, where you can get your blood pressure checked, where you can get your COVID or flu shots, where you can get just some over-the-counter medicine at night because your baby, has a fever. These are the things that we have to be able to access. But because structurally, it's not in the financial best interest of the pharmaceutical industry, or really more importantly, the pharmacy business, the pharmacy industry, the retailers, because it's not in their best interest. They don't mind poor people going an extra few miles. They don't mind poor people self-medicating. We got them jokes about taking Robitussin to fix everything. Part of why we took Robitussin to fix everything was because we didn't have the money to get the drugs or the medicines, and we didn't have access to get the drugs and the medicines. But the fact that now, in 2024, the gap is getting wider again, we got to do something about it. So yeah, talk about food insecurity. Talk about the lack of fresh fruits and vegetables. Talk about the lack of community gardens. But also, while you're fighting for that, make sure you fight for supermarkets that have pharmacies, and make sure you fight for local pharmacies to stay afloat so that they're not all getting eaten alive by the retail drug stores, which then disappear when the money leaves or the white people leave. Fight for community-based pharmacies, because when you have those, you have a healthier community. All right, let's talk about something that I've been talking about for years now consistently, and there are clips on the channel about this. U.S. maternal death rates are among the highest in the world. The United States literally has the highest maternal death rate among all high income countries. I'm gonna say that again because it sounds crazy. The United States has the highest maternal death rate among all high income countries. That's the case even with declining maternal death rates in the US. In other words, it's gotten better, but we're still the worst. According to a report by the Commonwealth Fund, the US had about 22 deaths for every 100,000 live births as of 2022. Do you know how wild that number is in a developed country? This number is an outlier. The country with the second highest rate, Chile, has 14 deaths for every 100,000 births. 22 is number one, 14 is number two. So we have 50% more than 50% more than number two here in the United States. Half the nations on the list have fewer than 5 maternal deaths for every 100,000. So if you look at the list, again, we have 22 out of 100,000. Chile has 14 out of it. Most people on the list don't even have 5. And then you got Norway. Norway has 0. Why does a country with such resources, such wealth, such access, such technology continue to have moms die at such a ridiculously high rate? There are multiple reasons. One is that this nation has never gotten a handle on poverty. One of the biggest predictors of this outcome of death while giving birth is being poor, is not having access to resources. It's not just that you show up to the hospital poor, it's that you haven't had access to proper prenatal care. You haven't had access to proper treatment. You haven't had access to healthy diets. You haven't had access to a pharmacy because there's not one in your neighborhood. All of these things increase because we have such vast gaps between the have-gots and the have-nots in the United States. It's very easy for wealthy people to have strong birth rates and poor people to have awful ones, so awful that it even offsets the wealthy's numbers. That's a big part of it, but it's not just money. Race is a huge predictor of whether or not you're going to die giving birth in this country. Again, the US has 22 deaths for every 100,000. Chile at number 2 has 14. Most of the half the nations on the list had fewer than 5 deaths. I'm just establishing context here. Do you know how many Black women in the United States had? 50 per 100,000. So that's more than twice, almost 2.5 times as many as the rest of people in this country. Black women are dying more at birth, giving birth, just like Black babies are dying more at birth. There's nothing inherently sickly about Black people. There's nothing inherently unhealthy about Black mothers. Black women have been giving birth in this country forever. But this medical industry, this hospital industrial complex, they don't serve us well. Black women are the most likely to be ignored when they articulate pain. They're less likely to be given pain medicine. They're more likely to have serious conditions dismissed as something minor. They're least likely to get high quality care and culturally competent care. And the intersections of race and poverty make it so that Black mothers are so likely to not get proper prenatal treatment. They're so likely not to get proper foods and vitamins and resources. I mean, this is the problem. So if you want America, based on the numbers, this ain't my opinion. If you just based on the numbers, if you want America to have healthy and positive birthing outcomes that are consistent with our perception of ourselves as a leading nation, as a modern nation, as a civilized nation, then you got to fix the conditions for Black women. Because if Black women's numbers were to fall just into the normal range, America would go from being the worst to being right where it belongs, statistically speaking. Nobody deserves to die at birth. Nobody deserves to die giving birth. But the reality for mothers in the United States is that there is a much greater chance of that happening than there should be. There's something we can do about that. Invest in communities, invest in healthcare, invest in prenatal care. And don't limit those investments to the rich or the white, but instead make sure that they start with the most vulnerable and go from there. All right, family, we're gonna take another break. When we come back, some news about your boy Kanye, or should I just say Ye? It's his name now. Let me respect the man's name. He named himself Ye. I'm gonna call him Ye. But he's in big trouble. He's not the only one. Some celebrity lawsuits in the news again right after this. Welcome back to Night School. Ye, the artist formerly known as Kanye West, is being sued again. This time for sexual harassment, as well as breach of contract and wrongful termination. Wrongful termination, I can say those words, by his former assistant. Ye is being sued, to be more specific, by OnlyFans model Lauren Peixoto. Peixoto was hired in July of 2021, back when Ye started his fashion line. She also eventually worked with Ye on a few songs on the Donda album. Don't ask me how she's an OnlyFans model that's working on songs on the Donda album. I don't get it. Ain't my business. Anyway, Peixoto alleges that Ye asked her to be, quote, godlike and delete her OnlyFans account. Peixoto then claims that Ye began texting her multiple disturbing messages describing his sexual fantasies with women. This is fascinating, right? And this is classic Ye. This is also classic extremist religious man, whether you're Christian, Muslim, whatever, right? I want you to be godlike. Get rid of your OnlyFans. I want you to be godlike. Cover yourself up. I want you to be godlike. Let me control your mind and your body and your words. At the same time, let me turn to a fan, a freaky ass Negro, when it comes to texting you my sexual fantasies with women. So allegedly, right? One text says, see, my problem is I be wanting to F, but then after I F, I want a girl to tell me how hard they've been F'd while I'm F'ing them. Then I want her to cheat on me. He a fan. Anyway, another text read, is my penis, he didn't say penis though, he said Richard, is my penis racist? It is. The effing racist penis of mine. I'm going to beat this effing racist penis for being effing racist. I'm going to stare at pictures of white women with black asses and beat the doo-doo out of my racist penis. So, one, dude is a whole weirdo. Two, why are you sending this to an assistant? Why are you sending this to anybody? Because this ain't some shit you send your girl. This is some shit you send your wife. This ain't some shit you send your ex. This ain't some shit you send your friend. This is just weirdo stuff that should have stayed in his draft folder. But instead, he allegedly sent it to this woman. That's the allegation. Now, along with these texts, her lawsuit says that Ye repeatedly asked her boyfriend's penis size. Ye is asking her about her boyfriend's penis size. He also sent her sexual videos and would even masturbate while on the phone with her, asking her if she could hear or guess what he was doing. Peixoto, the woman who's filed this lawsuit, was promoted to chief of staff before being fired in October of 2022. And she reportedly didn't get the $3 million severance package that she was promised. Okay. First of all, let's cut to the chase. Some of y'all are going to say she didn't get $3 million, and so that's why she's filing this lawsuit. Maybe if she got $3 million, she wouldn't file a lawsuit. But like we learned with Diddy and Cassie, that don't mean she lying. And there's nothing about these texts to me that don't sound like Kanye West, or now known as Ye. Nothing about these texts sounds outside of the boundaries of what he would do. None of these texts make you go, that's not the Ye I know. No, it's the exact Ye you know. Then it sounds like them freaky ass lyrics from his last album. Because again, he wanted women to be godly. He wanted women to be chaste. Meanwhile, he's chasing them all around with these freaky ass text messages. Talking about his penis being racist, talking about his love of white women, asking her questions about her boyfriend's penis size, saying he wants her to cheat on him, wants a woman to cheat on him. Basically, he wants to fantasize about her with another dude. That's the point, right? Again, I'm not judging his sexual proclivities. I'm not judging his sexual fantasies. I don't care what he's into. But it's the harassment. It's the hiring somebody to work with them and subjecting them to this. This is not how you work with people. This is not how you interact with people. This is not how you treat people. But Kanye has operated like he's above the law. He has operated like he is a God. Not just that he's a God worshiper and a God-fearing person, cool, but he operates like he is God. He operates like everyone has to listen to him. He operates as if he has no regard for anybody else. And the misogyny that comes out in his rap lyrics since day one, we could pretend he was a backpack rapper. He was, but he wasn't just that. We could pretend he was a conscious rapper. He really wasn't. But even to the extent that he wasn't just that. Like Drake, he's always had this bitterness and this misogyny that seeps out everywhere in his lyrics. And it wasn't just on the stage. It wasn't just on paper. It wasn't just on wax. It was in real life, according to lawsuits like this, which allege that Ye is the same freaky ass Negro. Thank you, Kendrick. That he was on the records. So more things are going to continue to unravel for Kanye. In the last 12 months, Kanye has lost most of his money, which makes you wonder if he ever really had it. He's lost so much respect, so much fame. He's lost family and friends. Kanye is falling, and I don't take any pleasure in it. I don't want this brother to fall. I want him to get the help he needs. But I also don't want us to believe that even if he has a mental health issue, and even if he needs mental health intervention, that doesn't mean he's also not a jerk too. Because every indication suggests that he may be not all the way healthy and well in terms of mental health care, but he also might just be an asshole. Anyway, we got one more story that we got to get to before my final word. New allegations against The Dream. 8-time Grammy award-winning singer and producer and writer, The Dream, is being sued for rape, sexual battery, and sex trafficking. Shanaz Mangro, whose stage name was Shawnee Monroe, says that she was forced to have sex with The Dream on multiple occasions. Mangro says that they met in 2015 and that The Dream promised to make her as big as Beyonce and Rihanna, but was instead pulled into an abusive and manipulative relationship. This is tough. The lawsuit alleges that there were, quote, violent encounters that left her badly abused. Once being raped in a van, she also said he forced her to drink excessive amounts of alcohol, forced her to do sexual acts in a movie theater, forced her to have sex on camera, and threatened to release the footage. She said he also refused to wear a condom. This is a disturbing and disgusting story. Again, everybody's entitled to their day in court. Everybody is legally innocent until proven guilty. So I'm not making any final judgments about anybody or anything. I wasn't there. I can't say. What I can say is most people don't lie about being raped. Most people don't lie about being assaulted. That's just a statistical fact. Do with that what you want. But This moment seems to be, as Cat Williams alluded in January, a moment of openings and awakenings and truth telling. And I think in the industry, more and more people are going to come forward with their stories of abuse and manipulation. They're going to talk about all the producers and all the executives who didn't just sexually assault them or harass them, but exploited them and manipulated them and convinced them that they would be big stars if they just played ball. And then they go through the process and they get exploited and they get abused and they get used and they get mistreated, they get discarded, and they don't get the outcome that they wanted. And then because the person was looking for a career, and there's nothing wrong with looking for a career, the haters and the naysayers and the misogynists and the rape culture apologists will act as if the person got what they deserved. That's what they said about Cassie, right? She wanted to be in that life. She signed up for this. Nobody signs up to be raped. Nobody signs up to be abused. Nobody signs up to be exploited. That's not what happened. So if this woman's story is true, yes, she wanted to be Beyonce. Yes, she wanted to be Rihanna. Everybody who comes into the music industry wants to be the biggest star. Everybody wants to be Beyonce and Rihanna and Michael Jackson and whoever else you want to name, right? Everybody wants to be those things. But you have a right to pursue that dream. And the producer has a right to try to sell you that dream. What they don't have a right to do is leverage your dreams against your body, to use your body as a ransom for your dreams. No pun intended. And that seems to be what's happening in this industry a lot. So in the aftermath of Diddy, in the aftermath of the successful lawsuit by Cassie, I think you're going to hear a lot more of these stories like the one about the dream. Now, we need to get the dream on record. I'd love to talk to the dream. I'd love to interview the dream and ask him what happened. I want his version. I want his analysis. But what you're probably going to get is not his analysis. You're going to get a stock statement from a lawyer saying, I denounce all the lies. None of this is true. I reject all these allegations. I will redeem myself. And of course, the truth will come out in the light later. These fake, mystical, fake, deep, prophetic statements that seem to be constantly undermined by the facts and the truth and the ultimate disposition of the lawsuit. So I don't know what happened. Like I said, I wasn't there. But it ain't looking good for the dream. And that's all I got to say about that. The Chicago Tribune published an article, an editorial, that basically was defending Caitlin Clark and saying that her main privilege is one of talent, right? That she's not privileged as a white woman, that she is privileged simply because of her talent. And look, that's fine. If you want to have that conversation, that's fine. But what they also said is that she now has a target on her back. And they said, and I quote, the foul committed by Chicago Sky Guard Kennedy Carter was egregious. Outside of a sporting contest, it would have been seen as assault. Even within a sporting context, it was bad. They said that outside of a sporting context, her act, Kennedy Carter's foul, would have been an assault. Do you see what they are beginning to do here? They are beginning to frame the women in the WNBA as literal criminals against Caitlin Clark. And what this demonstrates, in addition to being completely ridiculous, is our inability to have a complex understanding of a problem. First of all, yes, if I walk up to you on the street and hip check you, it's an assault. Sure. So what? If I tackle you outside of a football field, it's an assault. If I hand check you playing perimeter defense outside, or hip check you outside of a basketball court playing perimeter defense, guess what? That's sexual assault. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, if I smack you on the butt after hitting a home run, that's great. But if I smack you on the butt while riding the subway, it's a crime. A whole lot of shit that happens in sports is illegal outside of the baseball, basketball, football, hockey domain. So stop acting like there's something unusual about something happening on the court that wouldn't be permissible outside the court. Every damn hard foul in the history of basketball is illegal off the court. So that's just a stupid point to make, Chicago Tribune, but that's not the biggest point. The biggest point here is that you all don't seem to have an ability to have a complicated conversation about race and gender in the WNBA or anywhere else in the world. Editorials like the one in the Chicago Tribune, conversations like the ones we've been seeing on ESPN insist on making Caitlin Clark a vulnerable victim. Let's be clear. Caitlin Clark is not a victim, and she's not vulnerable, and she's not innocent. She is a trash talker. She plays basketball like all of us grew up playing basketball, talking crazy. She's hitting you with hezzy, throwing 35-foot threes up, and she's talking crazy to you the whole time. Remember the face thing she did to Angel Reese the year before they lost to USC when they lost to LSU in the final? Caitlin was the one who started this. Angel just finished it when LSU beat them. She ain't vulnerable. Every single play, she's talking to the refs. Call an effing foul. Call a stupid foul. She stalks refs. She talks crazy. She throws elbows. She plays dirty. And you know what? I love it. That's the kind of basketball I like. That's why I loved Larry Bird. That's why I loved Isaiah Thomas. So you don't think I'm talking about race. That's why I loved Chris Paul. That's why I love Dawn Stanley, because they play hard and they play tough. She's not a victim. Is she getting some extra sauce on her fouls? Yes. Was that foul Kennedy Carter did wrong? Absolutely. It was a non-basketball play. Unacceptable. Did she go too far? Yes. But that's how Kennedy Carter plays basketball. She didn't just target this vulnerable white woman in the forest who was planting flowers. She did it against somebody who had just hit her physically the play before. Again, Kennedy Carter was wrong, but Caitlin ain't no victim. You have to be able to look at white women outside the lens of victimhood. But it's just like when white women go missing on the news. It's just like when white women have the smallest inconvenience and they start crying and they use police as their personal customer service agent. We got to get off that, and we got to stop looking at black women as aggressors. And stop attaching to them these ugly, controlling images, as the sociologist Patricia Hill Collins talked about, of the what do you call it? The sapphire, the emasculator, the angry baby mama, the hypersexual woman down the street, the asexual mammy. We take WNBA players and we wrap them in all of that stuff. We make them Jezebel, sapphires, mammies, baby mama. We take all of it. So now, after decades of black men not saying a mumbling word about WNBA, now they're all concerned, like I said the other day, about Miss Caitlin. And they all talking about, oh, if these angry black women in the WNBA would just accept what they have and stop hating on Caitlin. That's the same thing they say about angry baby mamas. That's the same thing they say about angry ex-wives. That's the same thing they say about every black woman in human existence. It's like we wait for an opportunity to pounce on black women. The WNBA is like 80% black, at least. I don't know the numbers, but it's hella black. And somehow we find a way to make an injustice against a player, a campaign to cape for a white woman and beat up on black women. We have to be able to have this complex conversation. We have to be able to talk about basketball properly. Hazing happens in basketball. You can like hazing, you can hate hazing, but I ain't never played on a basketball team. I ain't never coached a basketball team. I ain't never seen a basketball team. I ain't never paid for a basketball team where some form of hazing didn't happen. Michael Jordan was carrying people's bags. Charles Barkley used to bring Moses Malone a newspaper. Magic Johnson used to bring newspaper and orange juice to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar every day. Hazing happens in basketball, and it don't just happen to white people. We got to be able to have a complicated conversation. We can say she's getting hazing treatment. We can also say she's getting extra treatment. We can also say there's resentment. But the resentment is based on the fact that the world is attaching all of the power and purpose and beauty of the WNBA to this one white woman. That's why people have resentment. They're not jealous and hating. They're frustrated with the fact that black women's contributions keep getting erased and diminished for one white woman who is spectacular. But she ain't the first and she won't be the last. And right now, she ain't even the best. We got to be able to have those conversations. But we have these extreme conversations where everybody either worships Caitlin or hates her. Where everybody is either saying, beat her ass or don't touch her. The best thing we can do is treat these people in the WNBA like people. Not objects, not victims, not bullies, and Chicago Tribune, not criminals. That's a dumbass argument. Anyway, that's all I got to say. Hopefully, we can stop talking about Caitlin Clark for like 5 minutes and keep talking about the WNBA and do it with the nuance and care that it deserves. Man, y'all got me sweating up in this joint. Anyway, thank y'all for watching Night School. It's a pleasure as always to talk to y'all. Make sure that you follow Night School on social media. Make sure especially you follow us on Instagram, Night School MLH. At the same time, hit the like button. Hitting the like button expands our reach. It lets the YouTube algorithms know that corporate media can't beat us. Hit the subscribe button. The bigger the subscriber base, the more we are capable, the better we are positioned to support ourselves, to sustain ourselves, and to extend our reach. And if you're so inclined, please hit the join button. If you hit the join button, you can become a monthly subscriber to the channel. By becoming a monthly subscriber to the channel, you allow us to pay for our bills. You allow us to build a full-fledged studio. We have a project, a campaign to build a full studio to expand Night School and to expand the MLH channel in many directions around the world. We have the opportunity to hire more hosts, to have more programming, to give a full news show. Wouldn't y'all like a daily news show of world events? Not my opinion, not me pontificating, not my wonderful jokes, but also a full news show, maybe hosted by somebody else. Don't you want to see more podcasts? Don't you want more of Mumia Abu Jamal? Don't you want more of the Palestine updates? Don't you want more of the Coffee and Books podcast? Don't you want more of these deep dives during office hours with the world's most brilliant intellectuals? We can do all of that, but we can only do it with your support. So please hit the join button and become a monthly subscriber. You can start with a bronze membership. It's only $3.99 a month. If you can do silver, that would be great. If you're already a bronze member, thank you. And if you consider maybe going from bronze to one of the higher levels like silver or gold, we would love if you could do that. And if you can't make a monthly commitment, we ask that you make a one-time commitment. You can go to Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle. All the platforms are on the screen right now. And when you do that, you can help us meet our payroll goals and our future building goals right now. If everybody watching right now were to make just one monthly donation right now for the month of $10, if everybody watching right now were to just do $10, we would meet our payroll goals for the month with just $10 to the Cash App or the other platforms. That's what we're asking. It's the beginning of the month. We got a long way to go, and we can only survive with your support. So thank you. We don't have corporate dollars. We don't have billionaire checks. We don't have any mainstream outlets supporting us. This is all on the muscle. This is out of my pocket, but more importantly, it's based on your grassroots support, and we need it, and we're grateful for it. So keep watching, keep supporting, and keep spreading the word about Night School. We'll see you in class tomorrow.